In a kingdom nestled among rolling hills and shimmering rivers, an aging king ruled with wisdom honed by years of experience. His heart, though heavy with the weight of leadership, carried a spark of hope for his people's future. Without a son to inherit the throne, he resolved to find a successor not bound by blood, but by virtue. His decision was unconventional, rooted in a belief that true leadership stemmed from character, not lineage. The king summoned the young men of the realm to his grand hall, where sunlight poured through high windows, casting golden beams across stone floors. Each youth received a single seed, small and unremarkable, yet described as extraordinary. The king's instructions were clear. Plant the seed, nurture it for 1 year, and return with the results. The one whose plant most impressed him would ascend to the throne, carrying the weight of the kingdom's future. Among the crowd was a young man, unassuming and diligent, whose life had been shaped by toil and quiet perseverance. He accepted his seed with a mixture of awe and determination, feeling the responsibility settle into his hands. Returning home, he prepared a simple clay pot, filled it with rich soil, and planted the seed with care. Each morning he watered it gently, ensuring the earth remained moist but not drowned. He placed the pot where sunlight warmed it and shielded it from harsh winds. His days became a rhythm of tending, watching, and waiting. Weeks passed, then months. The young man's anticipation turned to unease as the soil remained unchanged. No sprout broke the surface, no green tendril reached for the light. He tried different methods, adjusting the water, shifting the pot to new corners of his small home, whispering encouragement as if the seed could hear. Yet the earth stayed still, a silent rebuke to his efforts. Doubt crept in, gnawing at his resolve. Had he failed some unspoken test? Had others succeeded where he faltered? Across the kingdom, other young men tended their own seeds. Whispers traveled through villages of vibrant plants climbing toward the sky, their leaves lush and blossoms vivid. The young man heard these stories, and his heart sank further. His pot, barren and unyielding, seemed a symbol of inadequacy. Still he persisted, unwilling to abandon the task. He checked the soil daily, turning it gently, hoping for a miracle that never came. His hands, calloused from work, grew tender with care, though the seed offered no reward. As the year drew to a close, the kingdom buzzed with anticipation. The young men prepared to present their results, their pots brimming with greenery. Some carried saplings heavy with fruit, others displayed flowers that seemed to glow with life. The young man stared at his empty pot, its cracked surface mocking his efforts. Shame tugged at him, urging him to hide, to replace the seed with one that would grow. Markets brimmed with seeds promising quick sprouts, and the temptation was strong. Yet something deeper, a quiet, stubborn integrity, held him back. He had been given a task, and he would see it through, even if it meant standing before the king with nothing but failure. The day of judgment arrived. The great hall overflowed with color, a forest of plants filling the air with the scent of earth and blooms. The young men stood proudly beside their creations, each pot a testament to their skill. The young man entered last, clutching his empty pot, its weight heavier than any tree. Eyes turned to him, some with pity, others with scorn. He felt the sting of their gazes but stood tall, his heart steady despite the humiliation. The king entered, his presence commanding silence. His eyes, sharp with wisdom, scanned the room. He moved slowly, inspecting each plant with care. He paused before towering ferns and delicate blossoms, his face unreadable. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as he lingered over certain pots, but he offered no praise. When he reached the young man's empty pot, the room grew still. The young man braced himself, expecting judgment, perhaps ridicule. Instead, the king's gaze softened. He raised a hand and the hall held its breath. The king turned to the crowd, his voice steady and clear. He revealed a truth that struck like lightning. Every seed he had given was boiled, incapable of growth. The vibrant plants before him were the result of deception, each young man having replaced the barren seed with one of his own choosing. Only one had returned with the truth, a pot of undisturbed soil, bearing no false growth. The king pointed to the young man, declaring him the successor. not for a flourishing plant, but for a flourishing heart, one that chose honesty over pride. The young man stood frozen, his mind reeling. The weight of the empty pot shifted, no longer a burden but a badge of honor. The king's words echoed in his thoughts, a lesson carved into his being. The crowd, once dismissive, now looked upon him with a mix of awe and shame. The kingdom would be led not by one who could grow a tree, but by one who could grow trust. In the days that followed, the young man prepared for his new role. The king mentored him, sharing wisdom not of governance alone, but of character. The young man learned that leadership was not about displays of power or perfection, but about steadfast integrity in the face of pressure. The kingdom, too, absorbed this lesson, its people inspired by a ruler chosen not for what he produced, but for what he refused to fake. Years later, as the young man, now a king in his own right, stood before his people, he carried the memory of that empty pot. It sat in his chambers, a quiet reminder of the choice that shaped his path. The kingdom flourished under his rule, not because of grand gestures or towering achievements, but because its foundation was built on truth. In a world where deception often bloomed like false flowers, the young king's honesty stood as a beacon, guiding his people toward a future rooted in trust. The lesson lingered, passed through generations like a seed of its own. Truth, though often unyielding and unglamorous, held a power no falsehood could match. It was not the easiest path, nor the most celebrated in the moment, but it was the one that endured, growing stronger with time. In the heart of the kingdom, where the empty pot once stood as a symbol of failure, it now stood as a testament to courage, the courage to stand alone, to hold fast to what was right, even when the world demanded otherwise.